Hello, my fellow viewers. Draven Nerds Productions here, and today we're going to be taking a look at something new for the Thomas Motorized line, and that is the new Thomas & Friends Motorized Classic Thomas and Classic Flying Scotsman. As you may recall last week, I found both of them at Walmart when I was in Baytown, and those items caught my eye almost immediately. They don't have much of this new line of Thomas toys, but I did spot two Flying Scotsmans in the Thomas section. And I'm surprised that Thomas is the only character on the shelves, unlike Scotsman. So, it is amazing that I got them. Alright, let me take out the engines and let me show you the display box first. And it looks pretty cool. You have the Motorized logo, the 80th anniversary logo, 3+, and then everything around of this display box. You have the side of it, and then the other side, which showcases Thomas, James, Nia, and Percy. And then the bottom with all the licensing information. And of course, the back itself, which has the Fisher-Price and Thomas & Friends logo. So to those of you who are worried about the display box, don't worry. I will take good care of it. Alright, so let me move the display box out of the way, and we will go ahead and take a look at these new Motorized items one by one. So, why not start off with Thomas, shall we? So, there is the box, and it looks really nice. You have Thomas and the Troublesome trucks, and then Classic Thomas in 2 languages, and then the illustration of Thomas and the flatbeds or flat cars, and then the 80th anniversary logo, and then the top, and then the other side, and this side as well, with the Nitrogen era Thomas and Brenner era Thomases, and then the bottom, all this licensing information, and then you have the special barcode again, which has not seen since 2021. And of course, the back itself. Nothing too special. Alright, let's go ahead and open this thing. And there he is out of his box. So, yeah. And also, there are his instructions, which literally uses the old Motorized / Trackmaster designs. But I do not want to go over on this. Let's just get on to the model, shall we? Let's start off with the cheeky blue tank engine himself, Thomas. And as you can see, his face is looking onto the left, and the eyebrows are raised, and it's a nice expression. And of course, has printed buffers and has the white running board, which of course, it doesn't go all the way. But hey, it's something that what we can expect from Mattel. Overall, he looks really nice. And on the sides here, this has got to be the best that Thomas has ever looked in this line of Motorized. I mean, look at his proportions. It is dead on accurate of how he was in the show. I mean, look at this. It's amazing. Like, that big splasher and all that. And you could literally see the indent, I believe. And then the windows. And even the new cab windows, and of course the whistle, which it isn't painted, but hey, it is something that I could paint up after this. And of course, Thomas has those rivets that were seen in seasons 23 and 24, and of course retains the handrails just like one of those BWBA seasons, and I like that. And of course has the new side rods, and they look really nice as well. Not to mention that Thomas has those step ladders, which they're not painted, but they are a nice inclusion. And as for whatever this is on his sides that he's covered up, I could have assumed that is quarry dust since he works at the Blue Mountain Quarry in like Blue Mountain Mystery, but I would have liked to believe it's water, so who knows? It's just my only guess. And then here is the back itself, and Thomas has a tail lamp, which has not been seen since his classic Trackmaster model from, I believe, 2013 or early 2014. And of course, his buffers aren't even painted. Then this is what the top looks like, and the side remains exactly the same. So, yeah, Thomas looks really nice in this new line. Alright, let's do the comparison between this Thomas and the Trackmaster / Motorized Thomas from 2014 until around 2021. As you can see from those two models, the differences are just night and day. I mean, the face is gorgeous, while the face is kind of accurate to the CGI series, but not too much. And the proportions and sizes are completely different. The side rods are different. This Thomas has a squashed cab, while this one has a taller, longer cab. This Thomas has a tail lamp, while this one doesn't, although I did customize this Thomas a bit to have that rectangular lining on his back. And then the other side, of course, and I forgot to mention that this Thomas has a stepladder while this Thomas doesn't. And as you can see, this is the Thomas that I have used in the past in one of my remakes and videos. And this came with the Thomas and Terrence pack. And I have detailed him up and gave him Sharpie painted handrails to make him look like that he has those in season 23 and 24. Also, both of these Thomases are slightly almost the same size. In terms of what type of version of Thomas in this current line that we had so far, this Thomas literally beats this one by a long shot. So yeah, this guy is the clear winner. Now let's compare him to a Tomy Play-Rail model, which in this case, this is the 2018 Play-Rail Thomas, which I got last year. So, the faces are pretty nice for what they are, and of course, they always have that classic white-grayish running board, while this one has that running board, but it isn't completed all the way. And of course, the portions are pretty different, of course. And this Thomas has a stickered tail lamp, while this one is 3D molded. And the other sides, and then the tops, and the bottom. It is kind of hard to see which Thomas is the better Thomas. I kind of like them both equally because Play-Rail has a lot of detail into their models, while the Mattel ones, they try to put at least some effort despite some shortcomings and budget cuts. And I can say that Mattel is trying. Now let's compare the rivet detailing to the 2020 Talking Interactive Thomas. Of course, the faces are different, and you can see the amount of rivets that these guys had. So this is what Thomas looks like in his Talking Interactive form. And then, of course, this is the amount of rivets on the 2025 model. And of course, it has the handrails, unlike this Thomas here. Then the back, literally plain, and I also gave him the rectangular lining. And of course, the other side, the different amount of rivets. And of course, the boiler, tanks, and everything else. And that is the comparison of both Thomases. Now let's bring in the All Engines Go Thomas. And as you can see, this Thomas literally towers the new line. And that doesn't make it a bad thing. And it also has the newer chassis that they have made over like 4 years at this point. So naturally, they would reuse this chassis for the new line. And it kind of worked in my favor. And just like all the other All Engines Go engines, you cannot have them under tunnels, sheds, and all of that, unless if you chop down the switch or something. Not to mention that their cabs could flip this thing over on the Blue Mountain Quarry Tunnel when stone is dropped onto the cars. But if you have custom coal hoppers, destinations, and so on, they will work under this stuff okay. Alright, why not go ahead and give Thomas batteries, shall we? And he's a goer. Lovely. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the switches are a darker shade of red compared to the All Engines Go ones, which they are brighter than the new Motorized line switches. Alright, that's our look at Thomas. Now on to the Troublesome trucks, and they look amazing. So, the faces are reused from the 2020's Motorized line, which I don't mind. They look amazing. And the sides are detailed this time. And I do love the orange rusty weathering on them, I think. And of course, they have the new chassis block. And of course, have the wheels. And of course, they don't wobble. And this is, of course, is a far cry from the 2020 to 2021 trucks, where the Troublesome trucks had the wobbly wheels to make them wobble and make them much more alive. But that's a minor nitpick. But hey, I am glad that these trucks have some detail put into them. And of course, you have the cargo pieces, like the crates and all, in different shades of brown, I think. I think one of them is tan and the other, like, brown. And I gotta say, they look nice, even though they are clearly taken from All Engines Go. But hey, I don't mind. And that's our look at Classic Thomas. Now onto the Classic Flying Scotsman. As you can see, this is the box that he comes with. And of course says Classic Flying Scotsman in 2 languages. And then the same illustration of Thomas. And then 3+, the 80th anniversary logo, the bottom, the side, and the other side, the top, which has his promo, and the back is nothing too special. Let's get into open this thing, shall we? Out comes Scotty. We'll go over at the front first. And as you can see, his face is huge and still has that squinting expression. But hey, I prefer that to the 2016 version. And then, of course, has the black running board, which, of course, doesn't go all the way. And then, of course, printed buffers. And then his side itself, and it has that really nice shade of green, which I really love. So you have the nameplate, Flying Scotsman, the splashers, the boiler stripes, and then the windows, and then 4472. And then of course it has the molded side rods being screwed under, and it's separately applied. So That's interesting. It kind of reminds me of some of the narrow gauge engines who has the static side rods. Same for Murdoch and Hank, for example. And here are the lovely side rods, and then the molded wheels and all that. The back, and then the other side is exactly the same. And then of course you have his funnel, and it looks like in literal oval shape. I had no idea why, but hey, it's fine. And then of course the dome, and he looks pretty good. On to the tenders. And as you can see, they are in this nice shade of green as well as the new chassis block. As you can see from the tender, the coal texture is pretty different compared to the 2016 version. And of course, it does not have the back tail lamp, unlike the 2016 version. But hey, it does have the L&ER lining being like this instead of far apart. And of course, it has the rivet detailing, which it's nice. Although I do wish that the buffer beams have been painted red to make them look a lot nicer. And then of course the water tank, I believe, and it also looks really nice. And of course, being like this instead of being far apart, unlike the 2016 version, which it did. So you have the 4472, and then the back is plain, and then the other side is exactly the same. The bottom and the top itself, really nice. Let's compare the 2025 Scotsman to the Trackmaster 2016 version of Flying Scotsman. As you can see from the two Scotsman models, the shade of green is completely different. And of course, this one has the steam clouds onto him, which I know it may annoy and ruins the model to some, but I have gotten so used to them. Alright, so this Flying Scotsman has oval buffers, while this Scotsman has circle buffers, and the faces are kind of similar in terms of the squirking expression. And then the other side, of course, is pretty different. And then the top, the back, and the other side, and all of that. So yeah, major difference here. The same thing can be said about the tenders themselves. As you can see, it has the detailed buffers, while this one doesn't. And the L&ER is spread far apart, unlike this one, which is closer together. And of course, this one has the back detailing, but this one doesn't. And the other side is exactly the same. And of course, the new chassis block, and of course, it's molded onto the tender. So yeah, the same thing here with their water tanks. So yeah, that's the comparison between those tenders. Let's go and give Scotty AAA batteries. And he is also a goer. Look at Scotty go. Now on to my final thoughts on the new motorized classic engines, Thomas and Flying Scotsman. So, what do I think about classic Thomas? Well, I think that he is really good and really great, and Thomas has got to be the best that he has ever looked in this line, and he is my favorite in the new line. I love the proportions, the trucks are nice, and he is spectacular. So I will have to give him a 10 out of 10. As for Flying Scotsman, well, he is pretty good despite some of its problems that I have with him. But I am glad that his running board is not even shrunken down, unlike Gordon, which I will get him eventually. So I give this model probably a 7 out of 10. Now, I would like to run them, but the main problem is that once they get to the hyperglow station, their switches will be completely turned off. So I decided to have them run around in an oval to avoid getting into the hyperglow station. So, with all that being said, let's have these guys run on this layout, shall we? And that is the run of the new Thomas & Friends Motorized Classic Thomas and Classic Flying Scotsman. I am so happy that I finally found these items, and if they ever get used in one of my videos, then they will be used as some of the close-ups whenever I get the Bachmann HO figures. And I will try to get Gordon and James in the future, as well as the Amazon exclusive pack, as well as Duck and Nia. But for now, I am very happy that I finally found these models at long last. I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and let me know what are your thoughts on this new line of Thomas toys. This is Dre Edwards, signing off. I'll see you again soon.